Roy, how are you doing over there in the UK?
Not too bad at all, Mark. I'm fully recovered now, I think, from TechEd, so
Awesome.
I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. Yeah, TechEd was kind of fun. If you missed it, Roy and I and Seth Juarez were demonstrating the programming in Visual Studio with Connect, and it was fun to be able to use your
That
hands
was
to
cool.
move through Visual
Very
Studio.
interesting.
Today we're going to talk about custom painting inside of Visual Studio, and I am actually not feeling so well today. It's like I am like a little under the weather, so I am going to do kind of instead of doing my normal deep dive, I'm going to kind of break this, I think, into two pieces. I'll show you a little bit today, and then maybe next week or that. I think next week actually we're not doing a webinar if I'm recalling correctly, but I will follow up with this in a follow-up where we go into more detail, more advanced pieces.
So what you're
So,
saying is that our attendees will be able to keep up.
oh yeah, I guess so.
Because
I'm
let's be
hoping.
fair, Mark, usually your level of information is really right up there. Not to disparage in any way, but I think even at half speed, we're going to be in for some decent information here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm doing my best to actually keep up. Is what I'm trying to do. I'm feeling like it's getting worse by the second, but we'll give this a shot here. So, DevExpress, we're going to create a new plugin. We'll call this the custom painting demo, part one. And I'm just going to create a regular standard plugin for now, just to kind of serve as get that framework for the project there. For the plugin, I'm not going to do anything for this yet over here on the plugin surface, but I'm going to come over here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose Add New Item. And now I'm going to click on DX Core, and under DX Core we have some new items that you may not have seen before. These items were added for the changes we made to support 2010, painting on the editor in 2010. And there are three of them here. There's a DX Core adornment, there's a tile view visual, and there's a viewport adornment. So I'll give you kind of an overview of these. The tile visual is probably one of the most interesting ones. It allows you to both put a visual inside put a visual element inside of the source code, and also have it respond to mouse clicks. So you can click on it, that sort of thing, mouse hover, that sort of thing, and have it be responsive to the mouse.
So these will be things like the metrics and the member icons, things like that. And I don't know, does the little arrows, the notification arrows, do they count as this sort of visual?
Yeah, they are very likely done using this technology as well, right? Anything that you can click on inside the editor, even the smart tag for the refactorings, the three little dots, is a tile visual as well. That piece is actually kind of interesting because it actually has two modes. It has a mouse over mode and a just paint in the editor mode. So and I know in the earlier versions of that, when you moused over, it actually changed to a window that was hovering above it because we needed that for certain behaviors. And I'm not sure if we're still doing that or not in 2010, but at any rate, yes. If you want to put something in the code and click on it, I'll show you how to do that. And so that will create a tile visual. The other one is a DX Core adornment. That's just an adornment that's going to be over the some part of code that we can, at least we'll set both of these up so that they are attached to actual code. And so when we move the code up and down, our adornments will stick with those. The viewport adornment is something that is just assigned to the viewport, and it can be it can be, for example, a margin kind of adornment, but it doesn't change when you scroll up and down. This doesn't move up and down; it just stays where it is relative to the viewport. So I'm not going to show you this today. I will show you examples of the first two, however.
Just very quickly, Mark, is there a distinction between the viewport and the text view? Because they're both kind of similar sounding things.
Right, yeah. From this perspective, no, there's not really a distinction between the two.
So literally, this would be the window through which you see the editor and the code, and you can have
Right.
more than one on screen at once. You can even view more than one through onto the same text document, the same piece of code.
Right, but you can use viewport adornment to stick things around the editor. I'll go into more detail on this in the webinar. So for right
Okay.
now, we'll focus on these two. So I'll create a real simple DX Core adornment. This one I want to do something I want to create something that paints strings, the back color of strings, a different background color. So I'll call this a string painter, for example.
So this would be interesting to pay attention to if you've ever wanted to color your syntax ever so slightly different for different reasons.
So we'll do that. We'll call this a string painter, and we'll just do a quick example of that. Now what it gives us is two classes. One is essentially a factory, and I think I'm going to rename this. I'll select that, I'll hit F2, and I'll call this the string painter factory. Like that. And then over here, here's our string painter adornment down here. And there's some sample code that you get for this piece right here, where it just draws a rectangle around a particular the geometry of the piece you're creating. So the thing is, we actually have to hook up the adornment at the right spot, and so we'll need to do that. So let's go over to our plugin design surface, and we'll click the Events tab. We'll scroll down, and we're looking for two events that start with the word decorate. One is called Decorate Editor, and the other is called Decorate Language Element. And we won't work with Decorate Editor today, but we will work with Decorate Language Element, because both the examples I want to show you how to hook things up to an actual element that's going to be on screen. So we're going to double click that to create an event for it. And now we can go through and we can say if args dot language element is a comment. Actually, this is a string painter right here. So a string is a primitive expression. And then we can come down here and we can say if primitive expression dot, and that a primitive expression can be a string, it can be an int, it can be a double. That's it's a primitive expression. And so at this point we're going to say if primitive expression dot expression type name equals string system dot string. Then at this point we have a string. At this point, at this location. And so now what we can do is we can go into args and we can choose add background adornment, and in the background adornment we can create new, and then we can pass in our string, what is it called? Our string painter is what it's called. String painter factory, I think is what we called it. String painter factory. So create a new instance of the string painter factory, and the range that we want to put into that, we can just put in the actual range of the primitive expression.range. Okay. Like that. And I'm not going to run it just, should I do this or not, Rory? I'm just, you know how I am. I'm like, I want to do a little bit more, change everything at the, yeah, let's do one more thing. So basically we have this, I'm going to go with this adornment painting logic, but we'll change this in a moment. All right. So the other thing I want to do is I want to create something that paints comments. Maybe I think what I'm thinking about is I'm thinking about being able to put in a special comment that maybe says like DX for that, and replace all of that with a button that has the DevExpress logo on it. And when you click that button, you'll go to the DevExpress website, as an example.
Okay.
So we can very easily stick buttons in our code, and that's what we'll use the tile visual for that. Okay.
It's very interesting you should mention painting comments. Whilst at TechEd, I had somebody come up to me, and I'm very sorry I can't remember their name just at the moment, and they were after a plugin which would make some decision logic, and it would paint single-line comments in one color and multi-line comments in another. And their logic was that they would use multi-line comments as a kind of summary at the top, saying, here is the general purpose for this piece of code. And then throughout it they would have single-line comments, which were supposed to be steps, just singular pieces of clarification. And they thought this would make it considerably easier to read their code. So it's just,
they want a different color
do that
for
necessarily
single-line comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's necessarily something you want to do, but
Rory,
this sort of technique could clearly be used for that.
I think I interrupted you when I asked that question. Were you saying something else? I didn't hear what you said at the end.
I was just saying that whilst this may not be something we want to do here, it's the kind of thing that could be implemented using this sort of technique.
Right. So we'll explore that too. Maybe the other thing that comes to mind is Rory and I have been talking about creating an additional webinar every week on Wednesdays, and the idea is we call it like Feature Request Wednesdays. And every Wednesday we write a feature based on some request. So I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to do this. I'm probably not starting tomorrow, but maybe next Wednesday would be a good time to start this, and that might be a good one to write for that session. So so yeah, I think I'm kind of excited about that. The main thing is just like getting the momentum going. It's just going to take a little bit of effort on my part and on Rory's part, and I think we will have this going. So you can get your feature requests in, and every week we'll write a new feature. So all right, so I'm going to come back in here to add new item, and this time I'm going to grab a tile visual. So the last one was a DX core adornment, and now we're going to create a tile visual. And we're going to call this the image button, is what I guess I will call this. Image button for now. Or maybe I'll call it the DX button. And it won't be hard, I think, to see what changes you need to make this more flexible to load up any image you want. So we'll do that. So we've got the same kind of situation again, and I'm going to change this piece here. Instead of saying document adornment, I'm going to rename this just to call this the factory, because that's what I'm a little more comfortable with. So there's our factory right there. And so go back over into, and here we don't really have any sample code. We do have an on render. We have a render override. And if we come in here again, we type in OV space, we'll get, CodeRush will expand that out to override and bring up IntelliSense. We can come down here and say, for example, on mouse down, and then we can have some code in there. So what I want to do is I want to take like this and set breakpoints inside those, and then I want to come back over here, and I want to do something here. I want to say else if language element is a comment, and then if it's a comment, then let's do that. We get the comment instead. And then we want to say, I don't really, oh, I know, we want to say if comment dot, I'm not sure what the inner text is for comment, so we'll actually wait till we get here and get that text, and it's going to like this. So we will say, I'll create a local variable for it. If it is equal to dx, then we're going to come in and add an adornment. Let's declare this as a local. And so we'll set a breakpoint here, and we'll add stuff in there. This is that thing I like to do, Rory, and just about every time we're talking about building plugins, is I like to essentially lay out the framework of what I want, and then be able to work with the objects at design time, because there's so much more you can. I'm sorry, at runtime, when I'm going to work with the objects. When I say the objects, I mean the objects that represent the source code. So this comment object, I want to work with this, and I want to explore it so I can see what that inner text is. That's the idea. In fact, another way to do this, now that I've just said that, let's create a DX comment like this, and let's look at it. We'll analyze it inside the expressions lab. And this is the other trick that allows you that you can do if you prefer to write all your code at the beginning. So I move my code into this, and I see what I'm at here, and I'm at, if I click on this here, we need to bring up the, find that out. So I can see it's a comment, and then I want to go down through here, and I can see there's the name. And so it's the name property is what I want, has a DX in it. So I can come down here as I can say if comment dot name dot trim, like that, is equal to DX, then we're going to now add some code here. So we can do it this way too. This is another nice way to develop, is where you write the sample code you want, you explore it, and then you figure out what the code needs to be. So comment.name.trim is equal to dx. Then we'll say we're going to, in this case, we're going to add a foreground adornment, so it'll be on top of the text, like that. And we're going to pass in a new DX button, DX button factory. And this has slightly different parameters, and they're dock points. Now, when we work with, for example, like comment.range, that is a comment.range. Hold on, there it is, right there. Is a source range, and inside of that, it's got a start and an end. But the start is of type source point, and what we're looking for here is of type dock point. So what we're going to do is we'll type in dock point, get a class, get a class reference, like that, and then we'll type in dot from, and then we'll pass in the source point right there. And so that's how we'll get that conversion going. And then I'll select that with selection increase, and we'll grab the end right there. And then for the last two parameters here, I'm just going to pass in null and null for that, and just to keep it simple for now. So we're basically just creating a DX button factory and assigning it as this adornment. That factory is going to be called, the factories in both of these cases, whenever we need to create a new adornment, they will be called, let's see here, this method right here, new adornment, will be called and then that's where we actually create the instance of it. So that's what's going on here. We create the instance of it. So we've got our string painter, and with the render override on string painter, we're going to change some of this code up. And we also have the DX button with no code yet on render or on mouse down, but we'll add some code later. Okay, Rory, so is that any questions on what I've done so far?
No new questions at the moment, no. That seems relatively straightforward to me. We've got some control code in our plugin that issues whenever we're going to paint a document element, and that's going to make a decision as to whether or not we need to use the string painter factory or the DX button factory based on string or comment. Mm-hmm. And those factories will themselves apparently decide whenever it's necessary to create the actual graphical elements.
It's not so much that the factories decide. It's actually it's actually something in the background that's deciding that. But if the decision is made, then we'll go ahead and call it to create it. The idea being we could have multiple strings inside of our source code. We can have multiple DX comments inside of our source code as well. So that's kind of what we're thinking there. So all right, so let's run it. And I've set breakpoints at interesting spots throughout the code. And I have it appearing on another monitor. Hold on a second. I'm going to drag it over to the monitor where we are running this on here. Okay, and let's create a. I'll go ahead and open up this right here. All right, so we've opened up a project and we get the first breakpoint set a decorate language element. So let's set breakpoints actually inside of here and inside of here. In fact, actually, right here is the most interesting one if it's a string. Right here. We'll just keep going. All right, so on the excuse me. All right, so on the project we just opened. At this point, we haven't seen it yet because we haven't even displayed anything yet, but we're already getting an event for decorate language element on the string, which means that the project has had files that are open, those files were open, and some of those files have system strings in the view that are on display right now. So I'll hit run, and there's one, two times. We're inside of now we're inside the string painter, new adornment. And we're just creating a new one. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that one. And now we're already at the render. I'm going to go with the default painting logic here, and we'll just so we can see on here. And let's see. Here we are. So okay, so we only created string adornments because we don't have a DX button in here yet. I wanted to show this so you could see what's going on here. So we're drawing 3 rectangles. One of the rectangles is red, one is green, and one is blue. You see the blue one goes all the way around the outside. The other ones are rectangles. It's hard to tell exactly what the bounds are because the blue one is drawing right over it. So let's change this up a little bit. Let's set a breakpoint right here. And we'll see when it needs to repaint. So let's hit enter now. And now inside of enter here, what's happening is we're coming back in and you're seeing we're adding the background adornment, 1, 2, and there's the render call right there. So we've updated these 2 strings right here. I'll hit enter one more time, and now we'll go in and we'll actually change that code in the render. And draw rectangle this is all part of our platform-independent drawing mechanism. So this code is designed to work with 2008 and 2010. And you'll see you get this drawing surface here called context, and inside of here you have draw a rectangle, but there are no fill rectangle or fill equivalents. And the reason why is because in this particular framework we decided to allow you to pass in properties, just have one call and then pass in a fill color. So what we can do is we can now pass in a fill color for the first one and a fill color for the second one, the red and green, those are the outside edges. And that's essentially the start rect and end rect for the geometry. The geometry is the geometry for the shape and where it appears on screen. And then the last one here is we'll just keep the color blue here. Actually, let's change this to actually fill in the background. But let's change it to a much lighter blue, like powder blue. And let's put it at the beginning. And then let's see what it looks like now. And so now you see there's the powder blue in the background. You have the blue frame still, the dark blue line around, and then you can see the fill rectangle. You can see that the start of the geometry is 1 character in size, and the end is also 1 character in size. So the start is right there. To the left of the start is the string, the left of the string delimiter, and the start character here is just to the right of the string delimiter. So if we want to, for example, paint just inside here, like from here across to here, right there, then we need to do a little bit of calculation. But I'll show you how to do that. It's not too hard to do that. So we'll put a breakpoint here. We'll make a change again to require another painting. Let's get rid of this because we know this is working. And now we'll add a little bit of code. So we want to work with the active text view. So CodeRush.textViews.active and declare local for that, active text view. And if that's null, we're out of there, but it's probably never going to be null. Then we're going to say active text view dot space width, and we're going to declare a new local for that as well, called space width. So this is the width of a space. And then what we want to do is we want to call draw a rectangle, fill it with particular background color. I can pass in null for the outer range, and then what we want to do here is have a bounding rec for that. Let's introduce a local for this, geometry bounds, and let's call this, let's come in here instead of the old one, we're going to say, I guess maybe we can do this. Let's see, dot x equals, I think we can assign to x, and we're just going to say plus equals space width, and that gets us past the quote, and then we can say geometry bounds. We can also set the width. We can say minus equals 2 times space width. Let's try that and see what we get. And then from there we just do this one. We just fill it. And I want to get a slightly better color than that. Now this colors, by the way, is again, this is all coming. If we drill into this, oops, let's click on here. If we drill into this, you see that you're in DevExpress DX Core platform drawing. So this is a platform independent way of specifying common colors. And if we click on this to bring up the CodeRush color picker, we can use this just to get a decent color that we want to get in here. And once I get that color that I want to get, make that like really light here. For example, like here, let's do this. Maybe kind of the yellow, kind of a light yellow there. Click OK. It's going to put in. This is the color picker. It doesn't really know about the DevExpress platform independent way of doing this. So I will instead, I'll just take that hard coding piece right there and instead just go from color dot from the RGB, and if I drill into that, you see that's also declared inside of here, DevExpress DX Core platform drawing. So it's a platform independent way of getting that color in there. And now let's see what we need. Yeah, it looks like we are okay for that. So that's going to do that. So let's run it and see if we're close. I guess we'll step through it. So there's our active text view. It's valid. The space width says it's 9. So there's our geometry bounds. Let's see, it goes from 0, 0 to 225 by 21. We change x, and that goes 9. And the width is now 207. I think this is going to work. Let's run it. Nice. Oh wait, it's going 1 too far. Is that right? I think it is. Can you see that, Rory? That background?
Oh, I can now. You highlight it. Yeah.
Now that I highlight it, okay. All right. So I need to go 1 left on there. That's interesting. It's not 2 times space width. It's 3 times space width. All right. So let's do that, and we'll make that change. So we'll come up here and make another change. Of course, it needs to be redrawn. And I'll change that to 3 times space width, and let's. I want to change the color a bit so that, Rory, you can see it a little easier. I'm going to just drop these down to A's, these two right here. A, maybe this one A as well. And, oh, that wasn't very exciting, was it? Hold on. Let me just go back and click it. Make it definitely more distinct. Like that. Boom. We'll do that. And again, just take out the system.drawing that the color picker puts in there for you. And let's add a shot. Okay, so there you have that. Now the other thing that's interesting, maybe we want to change the text color as well. let's see if we can do this. I've not actually tried this, but I'm expecting that this to work. So let's make a change. And do we need, oh, but we don't have the actual text of the element, so we can't actually do that. So let me, I will just change this so it is still distinct, but we can still see the text in the background. And maybe we'll come back to this, but we're going to have to stop and restart to get this. So let's run that. Oops. Yeah.
That's the system.drawing got reintroduced again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can use the color picker to save some time, but you just got to fix that change there. That's a little bit easier to read, I think. All right, so that's an example there of painting inside of there. So let's see what happens when we make some text changes here. We should always be here like that. Yeah, so it's pretty responsive. I'm holding down the S key. There you can see that. So
yeah,
so not bad. The one thing we don't have is we don't have selections. When I come in and I select it, I'm going to I'll probably talk about this the next time we do this. So right now, see what's happening, Roy? We're not actually changing the background color if we're selecting.
sure.
And so I'll talk about that coming up. The next thing I wanted to show is the DX button. So let's do that. We're going to create a comment. So here we see the breakpoint over here, and let's now set a breakpoint here, and now keep running. So we've just created a comment over here. Oh, I have another plugin. That's going to suck a little bit. I thought I deleted that plugin, but I did not. All right, so let's do this. Let's save this, and let's close it down, and we're going to make two changes here. One is for the string. So let's make that change here. So here, notice here, when we get a string, we create a new string painter factory, and what I want to do instead is I want to have I want this factory to actually hold the string we're going to paint, I think is what I want it to do, I think. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, and there may be another way, I'm just thinking about there may be another better way to do this, but let's at least do this for now. We'll add a parameter, and it will be the text, and we're going to pass in here now primitive expression dot. I think it's going to be named. We can come back and check this later. What's going to be inside there? We need to set a breakpoint there. And inside the string, yeah. What did you say?
I think you're right. I think by definition, a lot of these things, a name is like the phrase, like the name of the so if and then other constructs. But where it's a literal, it takes on the content. So yeah, I believe name is correct.
So I'm going to store the text that we want to paint in the factory, and then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to do the same thing, add a parameter, call this text, and I'm going to pass that in. And let's field with initializer there, and then we'll come in here and we'll actually paint it. And so what I want to do here, this is what I wanted to try. Like I said, I haven't tried this yet. But there's a method called overlay text, and I want to pass in the. Or do I also need to pin the line number and the offset? I do. So I may need to record that as well. Because I don't think it's. Let me see if it's anywhere else. I'm just exploring right now, seeing what I got.
Seems like this would be the source range, wouldn't it, if we were back in the text view?
Yeah. So I think that's what I'm going to do for right now. We can look into this. There may be a better way to do this, a more efficient way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the factory. I'm going to pass in a source range. We'll call this. That's fine. We can call it the source range. And here we're going to pass in primitive expression dot range, like that. and do one more thing, declare field with initializer, and a parameter, pass it in there, and then declare field with initializer, and then down underneath here, overlay text. So now it's going to take a line number, so we'll say start dot line source range dot start dot offset. Text color will be color dot white, colors dot white, and bold I'll say is false. So now that means we can come in here and we can have a darker color, white on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
See what that looks like. So that's kind of what I wanted to try right there. Whoops, we got to keep that. Okay. So let's try that, see if that works. So my hope is that overlay text, the right text is going to be in there. We might have to adjust this just a little bit, like the offset might be off by a bit. Because it's a string, the offset might be the offset of the quote, and this is the piece inside, but we'll set some breakpoints and make that work. And the other thing I think we'll just keep, what was the other thing that we were running into trouble with? Oh, the other plugin that was out there loaded. So in preparing for this, I created just a sample, and it's right there. And let me delete that. I deleted the solution, but I did not delete that plugin. And so what was happening is because that plugin was just painting over any comment and all, and it was going to get in the way. So now let's run.
Just whilst we are running up, I'd like to encourage people to, if you are having any questions at this point, this is exactly the kind of stuff that we're here for. Feel free just to throw them on in there in the questions section, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. I appreciate that some of this stuff can be a little confusing. I know for a start I'm a programmer, not a designer, so in terms of positional things and working out abstractly where they are, sometimes that can be a little confusing.
So let's see. Here we're passing in primitive expression name. So here you can see name actually has the quotes inside of it. Okay, so we might have to work with that to remove it. So that was one of the checks I wanted to do right there. I suppose I could also do a trim, and trim curves here, so it's like that right there on either side. What that looks like.
Don't seem to be getting visual updates here, Mark. Maybe there's a network lag of some kind.
Okay, I'm moving the mouse around. Let's see what's going on here. I've got show my screen definitely is here. So you can't see any updates. Hold on a second. I'm getting an indication that that's because I'm debugging. That should be okay. Let me just hit run and see if you see any updates. Do you see any updates, or are you still not seeing updates?
Getting very staggered updates. I've currently got primitive expression highlighted as if selected.
That is not what's currently active on my machine. Right now I've just selected active text view. Let's see what I can do here. I wonder if I can... let's say stop showing screen. I'll try one more time to bring it up. See if that makes a difference.
We caught up a little bit. I'm getting something. It appears to be active text view highlighted with a breakpoint active.
Yeah.
On drawing rectangle or draw rectangle.
Do you see any change?
It's still a little slow, but it seems to be catching up, almost like a network lag.
So you can see
network flashing caret next to space width.
That's really odd. Okay. All right. Well, let's do this. We'll just do our best on this, and yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's sucking up my bandwidth, so I'm not sure what's causing this. All right. So, and people who are watching, if you're seeing it like a little faster than Rory is reporting, just let us know so we know maybe it's on Rory's side and not mine. All right, so let's see. So we're here rendering here. This is the place right here where the text is. Well, interesting. So we got to here, and text is. I thought we trimmed that. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Text dot trim quotes.
I believe we were trimming for the comment. Perhaps.
We should always. Oh, you're right. This is the comment. Oh, we already did trim it. My bad. I'm sorry. See, I'm looking at this, And no, this is a string actually, but I saw the quotes on either side, and I said, wait, we didn't trim them, and then I forgot, oh wait, it's displaying. This is how strings are displayed. You with me, Rory?
I am, yeah.
Bad. My mistake. Okay, so we're okay here. The offset, though, we want to increase offset by, I think, 1. Let's try it like that so that we can get past that quote. So let's run it and see what we get. Not the exception was handling code. Oh, okay. All right. So there you go. I told you I had not tried this before, and so we are not. Overlay text is apparently not available there. So there's probably another way to do this that I will have to research. I'm just not familiar with what that is. So we will undo this just a little bit, and it was worth a shot, but I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to research that and get back to you. So we'll go back and we'll change this so it's not such an obnoxious dark color, and then we'll go back to the button and we'll recover from working on the button. All right, so running, stop that. And here we are. All right, so now we have a comment right here. Let's come into the comment and let's add our magic DX piece and hit enter to get down the other side. And there now you see we're at the breakpoint here for decorating the language element that's a comment that has the text DX inside of it. So we're calling add foreground adornment, so we're going to put something in front of it. We're calling we're creating a new instance of DX button factory, and we're passing in the range of the comments to it. Inside DX button factory, there's the call to new adornment. We'll get a call from that in a minute, and I'll just run it and we'll see when that comes in. All right, so here we are at the new adornment. Actually, for this is the default code that the wizard gave us, but instead of a cursor arrow, I want to change this to a hand. So we're going to change the, so it's a little hand pointer when it's over the adornment. Go ahead and run. Now we're into render, and we need to do something here. So here, so this is the thing. So inside of, I forget where it is. It's like if we type in image like this, and we let's do this like new image. And we drill into this image. We get into DevExpress DX Core platform drawing. So I just really wanted to get that piece right there and come back. And so let's see what's inside of here. Whoops. All right, so image is inside of here. But if we type in like bitmap, we don't see bitmap. And so what I suggest doing here is you can work with either of the two platforms if you're more familiar with system.drawing or system.wtf. But you can go from here, you can grab, like, for example, bitmap from file, and then we can pass in C:\\\, whoops, let's put the add symbol here. So C:\\/ inside projects / devexpress.png. I have that. And then we do that. So load from file is that. Declare local, and so this is going to be our system drawing image. So let's call this our GDI image, like that. And then what I want to do is I want to go back to image dot and call convert from and pass in the GDI image. And that will now give us our platform independent image. And then so we'll call this our DX image. And then what I want to do is I want to go into my drawing context, and I call draw image, I believe. There it is. I'm going to pass in that image. And then I want to pass in a rectangle to draw it in, and I can just pass in like geometry.bounds, for example. And let's run it. Let's close this piece. Let's stop that breakpoint from coming in. And there's the render. So you can see the DevExpress. And that's just coming from that image that I have in this folder right here. Okay. So now the last thing is notice when I'm over it, it changes to the mouse hand. Can you see that, Rory?
I can, yeah.
Okay. So now when I click that, now we get the on mouse down, and here we can do something like CodeRush dot, and there's a method right at the top here called show URL and / devexpress.com. And now we can run it. I'm going to get rid of base mouse down, and we'll run it. And now it's loading, and you can see it's loading the DevExpress website right there. So there you go.
Oh.
All right, so so I still got to. There's a couple of things I need to research and come back with. One of them is dealing with the selection as it's moving through a piece that
Yep.
we're painting on in the background. And then the other is the replacement for overlay text, getting that correct, and just seeing what we have available for that. So that's it. With that, I'll go see if we have any questions. And
does not appear that we do at the moment. Guys, this is definitely your opportunity. Let's hear as many of those questions as you can come up with. As I say, not always a very familiar territory, the old painting of graphics and what have you for coders, although some of us have certainly done bits in there before.
Yeah, the main thing that's different is once we get into from version whatever the first version we brought out for .NET, which is like in .NET 2012 to 2008, you're using system.drawing objects, which we're all very familiar. And then now to be able to support drawing on both platforms, both JDI and WPF, we created this architecture. So it's a little bit different, but we created there's a number of these convert from calls. So you can create something if you're familiar with system.drawing. You can create something along those lines, then call convert from. It just accepts an object. We just look to see what the type is when we do the conversion on it for you, creating the appropriate platform independent equivalent. And that's it. So you've got, it's basically, you get that's the one ripple that's a little bit different from doing it the old way. But the cool thing that you get about this, though, is that once this is all running, let's jump back over here. Once this is running, we've got that DevExpress piece here. Let me clear my breakpoints out here. And now, once we start working with it, right, it just moves right with it. It's as if it's right inside the code, right? And that's it. So that is
nice.
That's how you do it. So yeah, it's right there, and it's solid, and it appears just like everything else. So yeah, you can stick images in your code. You access all of those, go through all those context dot calls. Overlay text is the one that, as luck would have it, it no longer works. That was something we built specifically for GDI stuff, and so I need to check and see what our equivalent option is for that, and follow up with that. So, if there are there any other questions, Rory?
We've got one question that's just popped up. It says, "What happened to I guess it's the element highlighting plugin?" I'm not familiar with that one. I know a line highlighting plugin.
There was a plugin that was the source tree plug. This one, which I'm not sure whether we. I guess we might be distributing. Yeah, we are distributing source for this one. This one is distributed, and it's in diagnostics. And it had an option in it to paint active node. I think it was the one that you might be talking about. So let's see what happens as I move through. So we just have Visual Studio's painting on there. We don't have our actual painting on it that's happening. So this may have been something that we lost in the move to 2010. So this is like kind of like I think we do have source code to this. I think this is in the source tree, and so I think when we ported this over, we maybe just, I'm not sure what we did, but it looks like we did not port the part where painting the active node came across. So if that is what the viewer is asking, then that may be the key.
What we've got here is there's actually been a follow-up, a URL pointing to an example on Alex Skorkin's page.
Oh, let me see
and it appears that he references a plugin which actually I've not seen before. It must be one of his side projects, perhaps. Appears to be allowing us to paint class, enums, events, and similar structures with different font colors.
Yeah, I'm still looking to.
I can.
I'm still looking to. How do I get the text of the comment?
Let me just copy that across to you.
Did you have to type it in?
I was able to use. Wasn't able to use keyboard commands to copy. I used right-click ultimately. So you highlight the question.
I don't
and
have
then
that
highlight
option.
down. This is on a questions panel.
Yeah, I'm on the questions panel, and I have copy email address to clipboard. That's all I have. That says copy on it. Please make sure Mark knows just how appreciative and probably we are that he didn't. Oh, okay. This is another corking webinar about 1/3 way through the index page that Mark blogged the other week. An extra show a week would melt my brain. All right, Surly Dev. Yeah, we'll look at that.
Well, they'll be recorded. You know, it's not like they'll just be absorbed this now.
Sure. Okay, so all right. So did you give me? Where did you give me that link? Did you give me that link yet, Rory?
You appear to be offline as far as various.
Right.
Contact
Just send it into the chat window for the inside of.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. I'll just duplicate it in there.
I'll do that. Yeah, I
there we go.
Close all distracting noise like chat mechanisms.
A good strategy, yes.
Okay, I see it.
There we go.
Bringing it up. Yeah, so we got binary source. It does not paint well it only paints well in 2010. Interesting. So it does have the source here. So it says it does not ship with CodeRush. So you can get the source. Did you try clicking on that? Yeah, it looks like it's just got it there locally. This is probably something that Alex created as a demo, as a sample. So what's interesting though is that it says, take a look at the source. We might be able to get a clue from that source code how what it looks like. So double clicking it, it's opening up Visual Studio 2008. I should have dragged it over, but we'll give it a shot. So we're waiting for 2008 to load up here. Come on. All right, here we go. Right, so it looks like it can be in this file right here. So here it looks like Alex is handling the decorate language element event directly off of something called event Nexus, which is a low-level object that actually has a number of events in it that we don't actually expose on the higher level. Most of these ones that we don't expose are things we don't really want third-party plugins messing with. But I will say that is out there. If you're ever looking for an event that's not in the main set, you may find things here. But this decorator element is essentially the same one. It's exactly the same one that we already handled on the other side, the decorate language element. So there's this handler for that. He's going to his options page that he has inside of here and check to see if he's enabled or not. He is, let's see, getting the name range of the language element that's being decorated, checking to see if the line offset for that is not visible, and if it's not, then he gets out of there. And what else? Collection, pinged element base. So I'm not sure what this is. This looks like a method inside of his options page. Here's where he's going to the factory, creating a new element, highlighting the factory,
So it looks like that previous object was designed to hold just the options associated with that type of element, because this is reused for various different things like classes and enums and so forth. So he effectively is passing options into the adornment construction.
Right, yeah, that's what's happening here and here. So yeah, it definitely looks like this is going to be used for the painting. The element highlighting dock adornment, where is that? Is that in this file? Let's see, where did we put that? We did not put it in this file. There it is right there. Hold on, let me grab this and bring it in. All right, I bet it's there. Yeah, there it is. So here, let's go down to the onRender, the render method right here, and see what's going on here. So he's interesting. So his options are probably stored in like a system Windows.drawing color, and then he's calling color.convert from, right? So we can just get these in the platform independent version of the same color. So that's again where these convert from methods they're definitely your friends when you want to do this kind of painting. He's got a line style, and he's got a do-draw text method. So let's see where his do-draw text method is. What's going on there? Oops. Oh, I need Here it is right here. So he's going into CodeRush via settings font name, CodeRush.via settings font size. He's getting that. Font style, and he's checking to see bold. Where's bold? Oh, bold comes in over here. It's past 10. And then he calls context.drawString. Okay, so he's just calling drawString on it, and he's passing in the font size, the font name, font style. So it's essentially painting right over that other piece. So that's what he's doing there for DoDrawText. So yeah, so overlay text is not there, but we do have the drawString method on the icon surface.
That's an interesting question there, Mark. Overlay text used to sort of guarantee that you were going to do drawing, as it were, in the foreground. But if you're doing a background adornment, that would seem to slightly contradictory anyway. So perhaps that's something to do with there.
Yeah, in terms of the because of the contradiction, it doesn't make sense to have the method there anymore. Is that what you're thinking, or have it not working anymore?
Perhaps. I'm wondering if there's an adornment where you could sort of you draw the rectangle at the back and then the text at the front. You'd have to have two adornments to achieve that particular effect.
Yeah, you might. This is again something I need to look into, right? Because you could also paint over it entirely, and actually this reminds me of something that you could paint over everything and painting both the background and the foreground entirely by just having a single foreground adornment. But one of the things I wanted to try on our string painter is I wanted to change this color so it had an additional opacity to it. So let's set a breakpoint here. And I just wanted to see what happens if we're painting over it and I select the background, if the opacity is taken into consideration.
I see, yes.
Maybe like this. We'll make it like a darker color, but we'll make it way less opaque. So we still kind of get that paint background. And get rid of this again. Let's see what happens now. So now when we select, oh, there you go, see it? So this kind of solves that problem. See that, Rory? So now I don't have to actually go in and see where the selection is because my background is using a slightly transparent color.
Okay, yeah.
Can you just see, oh, you know what? I forget, Rory. Rory is colorblind, so Rory probably, there's a chance Rory cannot see the difference between the should and the always. Is that the case, Rory?
I'm actually suffering a little bit of lag again at the moment. Oh, although that has caught up, and now that is actually clear to me. That's fine.
Okay, good. So yeah, so that's what's happening. Yeah. All right. So so let's see. I thought this plugin is going to be shipped. Appeared on the CodeRush wiki page. That's the plugin that that was a question about the plugin that Alex Gorkin wrote. I think is that question is it was going to be shipped. It is not. So sometimes we create plugins like this that are not something that we ship out. This is, I guess, something we could potentially do as well. Although the difference between a sample here and something we ship is like a lot of testing. So it's easier to get out something to the community site or on Scorchen's site than it is to actually ship it because we have to do a lot of testing, including performance testing, to make sure that it does not impact performance memory. And so that's probably what's missing here. That's not to say it can't ship someday in its current form. It's just that we haven't done that for this. Also, the other thing I think the reason why we haven't done it too is to be honest, is that I am not a fan of throwing a huge noise at developers. I know I spoke to a developer at TechEd who took the opposite stance of this. He was suggesting that it is actually much easier to read code when it's highlighted in his syntax. Actually, it wasn't TechEd. I just remember it was Tallis, our XAF evangelist. I was talking to him, and he was saying that he really liked the custom highlighting. So something to consider for a future release, but I think the reason why it wasn't there is I basically took the position that I don't want to, by default, to have this something that we ship, because I think this is more noise than the developer needs. So anyway, any other questions?
I think that's just about it to now.
All right, Amanda had to get out of here. She's in, I think, Kentucky trying to escape. She's got some bad weather over there, so she, I think, had to go get out and try to make another flight out and see if she could make it. So she's gone. With that, I will just say thank you to everyone who was here. we are going to, I think next Tuesday, I think I'm in a meeting off-site on Tuesday, so I will not be able to present next Tuesday, I think, and but then after that, everything should get back up to regularly scheduled every Tuesday, and then look also for our new ones on Wednesday, where we implement a feature request every Wednesday. Okay, thank you, Rory.
Okay, no problem, Mark.
Thanks to everybody else.